Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm so excited you're able to join me today. I know many of you are in the middle of year end. I still have nightmares about year end. As you have seen, we're going to turn the webcam on for 2021. So we'll talk about some other innovations that we've got going on in 2021. The title of our webinar today is Getting Paid, the Technology and Skills Your AR Team Needs. Now I know just around this time last year, we didn't know it yet, but in about a month or so, we were ready to really start to experience a new paradigm, which is when the coronavirus started to take hold. And so AR was obviously absolutely thrown up in the air. Those forecasts went haywire, and I'm still really not sure that many of us have those dialed in yet. And so really understanding what that forecast is, but also understanding some of the key lessons that we've learned in terms of how to collaborate with our customers to make sure that we get paid and also get paid on our terms. And I think couple of the great things that we saw, we'll talk about later, but I think the top one would be that we've learned how important those relationships are with our customers and investing in those and really understanding the impact that AR has on that customer experience. So I'd like to thank our webinar partner today, Esker, whose strong commitment to thought leadership helps us bring this webinar to you today. They also share my commitment to serving the treasury profession, and of course, my suit is inspired for my Esker colors. So go Esker. So if anyone at Esker wants to borrow my suit, I'm more than happy to let you do that. At Treasury Webinars, we all know what we do. We do webinars. We do them better than anyone. We're more entertaining, more innovative, and we have the best suits in the world. So some of the things that are coming, just want to give you a heads up. I'm excited. Innovation, I'm on camera. I'm going to have some debate style webinar format. So the first one is with my friend, Anders Lou Lindberg, the great AP debate. Should AP be a profit center? No, but Anders can argue the other side. Good luck with that, Anders. I'm going to do some professional development events on LinkedIn Live with the Treasury Recruitment Company and my friend, Mike Richards. Our first broadcast will be on February 4th. I'm going to be delving into the world of social entrepreneurship, and we'll talk about how companies are being challenged more, right, to show the social impact of their initiatives. And a lot of that is in company disclosures. And if those of you who haven't seen, I'm actually going to be on a reality show filming in in June. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we have our Treasury and Finance Virtual Forum. That's going to be in September. We learned an awful lot from last year. Thank you so much, everyone, who really took a chance with us and saw what we could do last year. And I haven't talked to anyone that was disappointed. We're going to continue to innovate on that. Don't settle for virtual events that are just back-to-back webinars. If you want webinars, get those here. And you're going to see more collaboration from me with organizations and companies that serve Treasury and finance professionals. Again, I'm going to be doing a lot of work with Mike at the Treasury Recruitment Company, and you'll see me more involved in industry events. Anyone that wants to collaborate with me, I'm happy to do that. So I think we saw some traction there. I was a member of the Treasury Coalition, so thank you to Craig Jeffrey and his team at Strategic Treasure for getting us all to realize everyone needs more than one source of professional development, and we all do better when we work together. Those of you interested in receiving CTP credits, you have to answer all their polling questions, remain on the duration of the webinar, and take our short survey at the end of the webinar. Of course, I'd love everyone to take the short survey at the end of our webinar today. If you have any questions regarding CTP credit, please be kind. I'm a one-man shop. Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. I am absolutely over the moon thrilled to offer you CTP credits, but that is the last reason that I do my webinars. It's kind of the icing on the cake. So if you love my content, come all the time. If you just want CTP credits, I'll give you some more resources out there. I really don't have value. I'm not adding value to you, and you're not adding value to me either if you're just coming up for CTP credits. So happy to help you with that. So with that note, a little bit of our agenda today. So we're going to talk about CFO priorities in AR. And it's exciting because AR professionals and Treasury professionals, you have been probably on the front lines for probably almost a year now. And so that's an exciting opportunity. And we're going to help you really take even more advantage of that opportunity. We're going to talk about how to deliver AR success. So a lot of people talk about metrics, what's done, but actually how you do it is important. And then we're going to talk about the impact, right, of your AR success. So how do you define that value, right, quantitate that value, and really, if you haven't invested in AR related technology, the value proposition, do that. Some of you were a lot of you did that last year, so kudos to you, because it's really brave to do that at a time of crisis. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with some key takeaways. If you have any questions, please ask your questions in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel. We all know that Ernie loves to talk, so I don't know if I'll get to your questions, but I'm happy to follow up with you afterwards. So let's talk about CFO priorities and accounts receivable. And so it's just become apparent, not surprising, but it's good to know that, right? CFOs care, right? We all report up to the office of the CFO. So it's incredibly important. Look at this. What's the number one, right, CFO priority as they navigate the new normal? I call it the next normal. So this is a great survey from Workday. So as always, I've got survey results, hyperlinks if you want copies of the presentation, you can get there. But revenue projection, right? Prioritize. So revenue projection, supplier risk management, cash and liquidity management. Look at that, 3 for 3. AR people, right? And treasury, and we better be on top of our games, right? Because CFOs realize without us, the company's not going to succeed. So that's incredibly powerful, incredibly exciting for those of us up to the challenge, which you will be after this webinar today. And then, navigating the next normal from Korn Ferry, right? So what are we looking at here, right? So what's important for us? Strategy, enablement, and operational information. And I would say this operational information here are these forecasts. And so these are incredibly important. So worries of CFOs. We want our CFOs to sleep well at night. Nobody likes a cranky CFO, including me. So I'm going to go ahead and let me see if I can navigate up here my new software as well. So be patient as I roll my polling questions. So let's go ahead and launch our first polling question today. I'm just asking you to share with me which of the following would be your biggest area of focus in AR for 2021. And of course, we like to manage these not in silos, but if one of these is really something that you learned from last year, you need more attention to, is it credit management? Maybe it's collections, maybe it's billing and payments, maybe it's cash forecasting, and maybe you're just telling me, Ernie, we are all over all these, and we know that these are all incredibly important to us. I want to let everyone know who's interested in receiving CTP credits. You'll have to answer all of our polling questions here today. Those of you who, everyone else, please answer my polling questions. It makes me feel good, And also, I'm going to do a better job also this year of sharing the results of my polls. I don't think I've been doing a good enough job of that. So I'll give you a couple more seconds, then we'll delve into how to deliver AR success. And then, of course, part of that will be sharing some of the lessons learned, right, from our new COVID world, which we're still experiencing, and I think we're far from over that. We have to be able to enable productive agility, which is being successful in any business environment, home, office, remote, all those good things. Going to close that. Let's go ahead and share the results. So it looks like we've got 40%, right, of equal importance. That's great. Every time I give all the above, that's what I'd probably do, kind of the answer that we all would expect to get. But cash forecasting is incredibly important. And we won't dive really into that, but we do have a webinar on cash forecasting coming up in February. So that's going to be incredibly insightful. That's really, technology is really a game changer there. But I'm going to really focus on how to understand your cash forecasting variance. I don't think anyone has ever done a webinar focused on that piece of it. So that's going to be incredibly insightful. So thank you so much, everyone, for answering polling question. A little surprise, we only had 1% for credit management, so good for you. But counterparty risk management, as you saw, was really, as always, a top concern of CFOs and treasury leaders. So let's go ahead and talk about how we deliver AR success, right? You have to define what that means, right, to your company. So it's not a one size fits all. And also you have to realize that I hope some of you redefine that, right? Last year as COVID happened. And so as exogenous things happen, we need to be careful that we're not trying to reach things that are no longer good. We may have had DSO projections and dispute times and all these other metrics, but if you were lucky enough to meet and beat your metrics from last year, good for you. But in certain industries, it just wasn't possible. So we need to define that success. And only part of that, right, is those metrics. We have to understand our internal customers as success. We have to look at actions, right? So every time you communicate with the customer, you should want an action, and you should have a metric behind that, right? We don't want to bother our customers. You have to understand your skills, right? Self-assess, but also the skills of your AR team, right? And that's one of the tenets of the webinar today is what skills matter, right? Have they changed? And then, what are the skills that enable people to be more efficient? I think a lot of companies really don't understand how much time is spent in certain activities. And so some people will say, my folks are too busy. Well, I think your folks are probably too busy because they're doing tasks that aren't high value add tasks, right? And then you want them working on more strategic tasks. So one of the things that I would encourage any manager to do is like have people track how much time they're spending on things, right? And then we'll see, where can we help them? Technology usually does, and you can see their pain points. And as you free them up, right, that'll allow you to train them up, right? And not only skill themselves up, but also cross-train, right, your team, and then they can teach you something, right? So that's kind of the best world. You have a diverse skill set among your team members. Everybody gets trained up to be good, right? And then you have someone that's amazing in a certain area, and then all your team members should be able to teach you something, especially me. Nobody, you need a good look in the mirror and get your folks to that. So you have to understand the skills gaps that exist, right? What are your goals, right? Do we have the skills to do that? Okay, let's be honest, we don't. Okay, how do we train folks up? Do we need a new person? Do we need to cross-train? How do we do that? Do we need to go out, right? A lot of education is free, right? You shouldn't pay for webinars. You shouldn't pay for conferences. If you think you need to, let me know. I'm happy to connect you with you don't need to do that in today's world. And then, of course, part of delivering success is technology. So you have to really take a deep dive into your technology. If you've never done this, I encourage you. You're doing it today. Let's take a deep dive at all the technologies out there. Anything you see, AI, we don't need AI. So what? Look at it, right? And look at the value. The business case is always compelling. Be educated, right? If you don't want to invest in AI, if you don't think RPA is good, that's fine. Make an educated decision. But when you start to look at the pain points and you start to look at successes of other companies that are probably in your space, you'll start to see that they've leveraged technology, and you can look at, okay, what technology did they use? What technology do I use? And then does it make sense for me to create a path to get to that technology that's going to empower success? I told you this. Understand the time spent on non-value-add activities. I've been involved in FP&A surveys on this endeavor, finance leaders. It's amazing to me how much time is spent on non-value-add activities. I don't even want to know what mine would have been when I was in Treasury back in the day, when it took us hours or two to just do our daily cash position. Assess your current relationship with your internal customers. And I think most importantly, get along with sales. I know it's hard. I'm sorry, salespeople, but I was in Treasury and I was work with the AR team. But it's incredibly difficult sometimes to get along, with our sales professionals. And then understand the impact of your AR actions on your company customer relationships. And so, believe it or not, there's a lot of actions that AR takes. We'll talk about those that impact the company customer relationships. So if your person in AR gets snooty with your customer, I guarantee it's going to get up the chain, and your sales guy is going to get a call, and you're going to create this problem. Especially now in today's world, we don't need any tension, and sales guys are actually amazing. All you need to do is you have to get on the same team, right? You all want to make the customer happy. We all want to get paid, right? But we have to treat people as relationships and not transactions. And so it's really the honesty, right? So sales should be able to see any interactions with the customers, right? AR should be able to see. We shouldn't be hiding, because sales guys like to be the heroes, with the customers. That's perfectly fine. But sometimes, we have to get them to shorten that Superman cape a little bit, right? And tell it like it is. And also you should engage. You should get your CFO to engage and not just be a referee, right? Have a conversation. Call your customer, your sales guy with your CFO, right? And ask them what's going on this year. How is COVID impacting you? And don't let them use COVID as an excuse, right, long term. But if it really impacts their customers and their industry and they can't control that, why are you going to beat on your customers, and you might lose your customers? Crisis is when relationships are borne out, And so you have to do the best you can. You know, would you rather lose a couple $1 million in lifetime value, right? Or would you rather, you know, get paid 15 days later for the quarter? You know, I don't think that's common sense is done enough. And then if you're not in Treasury, if you're in AR or AP, you need to collaborate with Treasury to control receipts. It's all like control of cash. So I think Treasury needs to own the cash conversion cycle. And Treasury, we really have a view into everything. And if we have the right visibility, Treasury, we need to focus really on why things happen, right? Instead of what happened, right? We're looking at our receipts and we're like, that happened, that's fine. Why did that happen, right? What's the variance? So we need to all collaborate. We need to have visibility, right? We want to get paid, get paid on our terms with that remittance detail, so it makes things as efficient on our end. And I mentioned this earlier, but we need to invest in relationships. We need to invest in those internally. If you're managing credit in silos, you know, credit collections, disputes, we need to all get on the same page and all be communicating within and beyond AR, right? With your internal customers, Treasury, AR should all get T-shirts that say "I heart sales." I'll let you borrow my red jacket. So you know, AR salespeople like pizza and everything else. So let's put the olive branch out there. And then externally, right? We have to realize that we have impacts on our customers, but also our service providers. And so if we work with technology partners such as Esker, you know, let's build relationships with them, right? They promise us things. Let's make sure they deliver. Esker will deliver, right? And so you need to have the right relationships. And they talk about customer success, but put them to task, right? Some of the companies I worked with last year, they actually proactively look, okay, are my clients using the functionality that we have, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? You have a Porsche, you need a Porsche, you need to go 95 miles an hour, but your person driving the car doesn't know how to drive the stick, right? And he's grinding the gear. So let's make sure, you know, on the provider side that we're doing that as well. So let's dive in a little bit about, you know, your macroeconomic, you know, use. Let's talk about success. I think pretty commonly, so we have to look, right? There's different metrics, and in terms of reporting, we need to get the right information to the right folks, right? So some macro level metrics, right, that we might have looked at maybe at the CFO controller level, possibly director of credit AR. We have DSO, right? That's always going to be there, makes absolute sense. DDO, right? That's also important, and that's a place where technology can help us, right? If we have issues, you know, with these deductions being taken, what, when, why, a lot of times it's visibility, and people make excuses. I took a deduction, I didn't know that. How many hours do you spend on the phone with the same customers having, you know, the same arguments? You have to, one, build that relationship with them, or two, create consequences to them, right? For in doing that. Bad debt write-offs, of course, that's incredibly important. But again, I would look at that metric, right? I'd almost classify those, right? Okay, we might have to write this off and get into it, right? What's the reason, right? Was it COVID? Was it whatever? So let's not bash on our team maybe for more bad debt write-offs. Maybe it was COVID related, and there's a note right in the file. Of course, we don't want any bad debt write-offs. However, in that some of that's being improved by credit management with some of these AR and AI automation tools. And then cash projection accuracy, that's incredibly important. And as we saw, that's going to be a focus, you know, in AR. So Treasury folks, please reach out. We don't need everybody in the company forecasting, right? Treasury, you should own that and work with your AR folks, and then work with them to understand the why, right? I like to look at my bank accounts or whatever. We need to know the why, right? People, process, technology, and then cost of AR operation. So find success, but really at the macro level, what I tell folks is that you give this dashboard, right, to your leaders, and this helps them ask the right questions, right? And look for trends. So the CFO comes in, or the director of credit, VP of credit comes in and says, okay, I want to look at what's my DSO, right? And maybe you look at that on a weekly or monthly basis, maybe it's seasonal, but you can look at that. And then you can say, I was expecting that. That's okay, I wasn't expecting that. Is there a note in there? Hopefully you have some technology that allows you to put a little note in your dashboard, and then you can ask the right questions. Maybe you have to investigate it yourself, maybe you're the director of credit, and you're like, hey, especially if I'm at Franklin Electric, you know who I'd probably ask Joy Conrad, right? Because she would absolutely know the answer. I have to say that because I believe the global credit manager for Franklin Electric might be on the webinar today. I worked there many moons ago, and I've worked with those guys, and they're awesome. So sorry, I had to get that in there. So that's your macro level there. And then it's really interesting. You want to look at your metrics, right? And it's not necessarily that you look at other people's metrics and industry metrics, and it's going to be right with yours. But I think really what I look at is, all right, who are the survey respondents? Okay, let's look at top performers. Let's look at medium and bottom, whatever that might be. And so, I assess myself, right? So I'll say, okay, hopefully I'm measuring this cost myself, right? But I look at, okay, where am I at and where could I be? So, so maybe I'm at $30 for cost effectiveness. Maybe I'm not getting to $4, but I can get from 30 to 10. So that's the way I encourage folks to look at metrics. And so you look at metrics over time as well. You look at your own metrics, but you don't want to get too excited and pat yourself on the back, right? Because you might go from extremely horrible, right, to I'm not quite as horrible as I used to be. And so the reason I show this is these are the kind of metrics that are out there. And so these metrics are from my friends at APQC. If you're not familiar with APQC, they have a lot of amazing information. That's what they do, metrics all day long. And so, and they do a lot more of the industry deep dives and things like that. And so if you're really interested in really diving in on something, I would encourage you to connect with my friends at APQC. I'm happy to get you connected with them. So let's talk about, some of the reporting tools, right? So whatever those micro level metrics or macro level metrics, and then our micro metrics, might be more for the analysts, right? And the folks that are on the front lines. How long does it take to resolve a dispute? How long does it take by the category that it's in? So you have to categorize those. The number of exceptions, number of phone calls, right? Resolving disputes, and so those are different. So you have different consumer sets for your AR reporting. Before we get in there, don't send the same report to the CFO that you do to your AR analyst or your collection specialist. This makes no sense, right? What we want to do is provide those folks information and make sure that the actions they're performing are moving metrics in the right direction. And at the top, that impacts the bottom line. So people say you don't need too many metrics. And in today's world, we have the data, right? So, right, I might have 3 to 5 metrics. However, the 3 to 5 metrics that I want to push and dashboard to my CEO are different than I want to go to my credit manager, that I want to go, right, to my collection specialist. And so let's give these people information that they need, but also help understand the drivers, right, of those metrics with them. And so there's obviously a lot of reporting tools, and some people, use different types of tools. And so you have tools, right? You have folks that use spreadsheets, and a lot of folks, it's just a combination, reports from your ERP, BI, CPM tools, and then you have specific third-party analytics solutions. And there's an awful lot going in on this area. We're not going to get too deep in the technology, but if you're really interested, on the technology, the RPA, the artificial intelligence and how that all works, I'm happy to connect you with my webinar partner, Esker. And then some folks, they don't really track enough, and some folks report they do not track. So that's kind of a little bit of that landscape. So that's a pretty good transition here. We're going to get to our next polling question. I bet you can guess what it is. I'm asking you to share with me which one of the following is your company's primary tool for your AR related reporting, helping you drive success, tracking your metrics, whether that's to internally or up the chain to the CFO across Treasury. So it's primary tool, right? Just be honest. I'm not going to tell anybody. Is it spreadsheets? Is it ERP? Do you have a BI, CPM, business intelligence, corporate performance management tools? Is it a third-party analytics solution? Could be something on the lines of something like that our partner Esker offers, or you do not track, and that's that's your decision. And hopefully, if you're there, we will give you incentive to make sure that you do that, but also have convinced you that it's not cost prohibitive for you to do that, right? You can't manage what you can't see, and you need to understand the why, and you need the information that'll allow you to do that. Again, I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions. Those of you interested in receiving CTP credits, don't send me 5 emails about it, but you have to answer all the polling questions. So let's go ahead and close the polling question, and let's take a quick peek at the results. And we've got, it's a little bit about what I expected. Maybe a little bit high, but I guess it's probably a combination, right? So I think way back in the day at Franklin Electric Peoples, I think we used ERP, but I think we ended up dumping things right into spreadsheets. And so I think that was probably something, that's most important. Well, the good news is there's specific solutions out there, right, that are specifically built to do that. ERP solutions were not built for you, that they have some good functionality, but they weren't built, right, to optimize your AR and to optimize your customer relationships and to track the things that are important, help you identify trends and incent actions, right, and make sure that we're giving everyone all the information they need that impacts, right, that AR success. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to complete the polling question. Now let's go ahead and let's get back to reporting. So yes, but I if I specifics, know your report customers. I've done webinars on this in the past. If you want a whole presentation or a whole hour, I have the recording of know your customers, the specific metrics for each job title and AR. If it might be interesting, please let me know. And then help the consumers understand what they need. Feel good, if it's not you, your credit manager, go ask folks, what information could I give you that would help you do your job better? So maybe, you have an account. Well, I didn't know I had an issue. I don't know I had an issue with Emerson Electric last quarter. Well, maybe you could go in and look, right? So no one has this perfect memory, right? And so, okay, go in. Oh, it's sales, talk to them. Okay. And one of the things that I did at Franklin Electric when someone on the credit team was gone, I had to approve credit holds, right? And we had pretty good information, but I didn't feel like I had enough, information to do that. The last thing I want to do, right, is hold an order, right? And when the customer really needs it, it's a long time customer, but we have credit limits for a reason. And so I think that's incredibly important that everyone that's going to be involved in that process has the information that they need. We need to give folks timely and accurate information. So understand what they need, when they need it. And if it's not possible, just tell them we can't do that. However, we can do this. This is a proxy, or can you help me? And maybe they can help you figure out another place to get information that we can report on to them. We want dashboards that inform decisions. Oftentimes it inspires the right question, because when I was in Treasury, it's like if you give the CFO some dashboard or some information and he's going to ask you some questions, you would think he's from Mars. You're like, where in the heck did that cover? Well, you have to look in the mirror, because it's probably because you didn't give them the right information, right? So sometimes these people are incredibly smart, as are we all, but sometimes we give them the information so they ask the right questions to help us look in the right areas, because we can get stuck in the weeds, right? Because we're doing day-to-day, we see these things and we'd like to look all up and down, but sometimes, and that's really the value that they offer. They have a different perspective and they can look at things and see things in a little bit different light. And then we need to empower the story behind the numbers. And so we need to teach the person that is presenting the reports or giving the reports out to what's the story behind the numbers. If you know the credit manager is going to ask a question about it, you need to have technology that has a box. Okay, this was down 20%. Put a note in there. I spoke to and they are having issues with COVID. This should be resolved, right? And the last thing you want to do is leave your credit manager or your treasurer out to a lurch, because when the CFO gets it, right? He's gonna go after he's going, what the hell, what's going on? Sorry about that face, I'm probably scared. What's going on? I've seen the call. So why don't we, help us all be ready for the calls? And a lot of times you can stop the calls from even coming. So you know what's going to trip the wires. So why don't we just be honest and authentic and put in there, this is what we're going to do about it, right? Or maybe it's, hey, this is going on. John scheduled a call. John's the sales manager. And so, and then that helps us not waste the time of you or your executives. All right, so let's make sure we got on a flip the slide. So let's talk about assessing and managing your team. Again, we're going to get innovative this year. We're going to talk about your skills and your team skills. I like this framework. Other folks have their own frameworks. It just needs to fit with you and something that you can work with. The ring that we have, I think this helps, on any hire, but ethics, integrity are important, and professionalism. Hopefully we don't have to go over that, but I think with COVID that changed. Professionalism also applies to virtual communications, right? Email, irritating, doing emails when you're irritated is bad news. And people from Frank Electric are like, I think you used to do that, and I did, I confess. But we can do better, right? And so I think, we go technical skills, right? Business skills, which is great for credit because you really have to understand especially if you're involved in the credit limits, you need to understand, right, your customers, what they're going through. You're not just looking at a D&B report or something. Let's understand that. You have to have people skills. You have to understand the impact. And sometimes you might have to negotiate with your treasurer or CFO. Look, I've been working with this customer a long time. I think we should release this order. And you have to have leadership skills. So you have to be able to lead your team in AR, but also be a team player. But you also may need to lead, help lead, right? An interaction. Maybe you're having an interaction on a dispute, right? With someone in the AR team, I have to say, okay, treasurer, you can be on the call, but this is what we're doing. And then we need to be more, have more digital skills and be able to leverage technology. Technology really empowers us to do our job better. And so we need to look at technology as an enabler of best practices. And so companies of all sizes can be doing everything that the Fortune 500 or 100 are doing, right? Usually the economics make sense. So that's just a framework that we have. So if you're going to do the skills assessment, I apologize if this seems like common sense, but that's what I do. If I was talking about rocket science, I'm in a red suit. No one in a red suit talks about rocket science. Maybe they do because it's red, but so here's really simple. What are the specific skills that matter most in AR in today's world? To me, I'll list those from what I've heard from last year. Communication, digital communication skills, authenticity, and honesty. And you have to build relationships. So you have to incent your customers to be honest with you. And maybe you work with your sales guy, right, to tag team on when you have credibility with your counterpart, right, in someone's AP department, then they will be honest with you. And that's extremely important. We have to be able to leverage the tools, right? And we may have to be able to tell the stories behind the number. We need to explain, right, why our DSO went out, and maybe someone's responsible for a certain industry. Hey, Joy Conrad, why did this go? Why did this number go up and down? And Joy, well, she could have done this 20 years ago, but yeah, this is why it happened. So that's important. And then and then how do you decide if your team members have these skills? How do you assess the skills? So where you stand depends on where you sit, right? I'm happy to have the conversation with you on that. Not my bailiwick, but I'm happy to point you in that direction. And then how do you decide where to train up or bring in new employees with the skills needed? And so for me, my philosophy is let's look in-house. Most teams have a dynamics, right? You have someone that's usually the technical guru. Okay, get them to train your rest of your staff up. Somebody isn't Ernie, the extrovert, can go out, can negotiate, who has good relationships with all customers, who has good relationship with treasury, who has good relationships with the CFO, right? Help us, train us. Yeah, that's a skill. Listening, Ernie doesn't listen very well, but listening is a tremendous skill, especially when dealing with customers, and you can listen electronically. So, how do we decide how to do that? Before you bring someone in, that's a pretty big decision in today's world. I lean towards train up with one caveat: the person has to want to learn. If the person wants to learn and they're at your company, they worked at your company, for any length, they have to be smart. Hopefully, you're not keeping around C players, right? So they want to learn. If they don't want to learn, well, maybe you do need to shuffle them out. AR, people are going to want to be in AR. And they should, because it has a tremendous impact on the company's success. And then just some interesting research from Grant Thornton, just some of the skills, right, from the CFO, right? And so here's what they want from their folks, right? Quick access to the right data to make decisions quickly. We need to be able to do that in AR. We also need to be able to give the right data to the CFO. Processes and process owners, right? So we want to have people take ownership and have some input, right, into how we define our processes. Training paths, right? We just talked about that. And then I think some of these things are just productive agility, right? Be able to function, think on your feet. And so the cool thing is when we start to look at what matters to the CFO, that matters to AR. So when we have a conversation with the CFO about investments that we need, right? AR, hey, can I train up my staff? What's the CFO's top priority? Oh yeah, we need to do cash forecasting. Hey, we need to, have better relations with our customers. We need to improve our DSO. So guess what? This might be a once in a generation opportunity for you to bring your AR function, to be best in class, whatever that means, right? And so we talk about more skills. So anyway, you know me, I always give you too much to consume. Please ask me for the presentation slides, but just things to think about, right? And things to, when you're, where you stand depends on where you sit, what are the skills, right? And you probably want to focus obviously on the skills where you love my team, but our company's going this direction. I think we need to work on these skills. Maybe you're going over international borders. Maybe your customer base is changing, industries are changing. Maybe there's going to be some sort of new reporting, right? Besides DMB. Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? But so you know what you want to work on, and your people need to know what they need to work on. So I would go to every person in your performance review and ask them, let's dive in on your professional development a little bit. If there were one thing that I could help you improve on this year, what would that be? And it might be something. You might be something you agree with, but maybe it's something that you're not. Well, John, you're really awesome at this, but I don't know. What about this? How do you feel about that? Don't say, John, you suck. Just, soft shoe that. Get them to take accountability for their own skill sets and their own professional developments and just skills that impact performance. This is probably a little bit generic. And so you need to tailor this to you. What impacts AR performance at your company? Right? What do you have now, right? And sort of skill set. Okay, what do you want to improve on? And then what are the skills that as you upskill your team, how is that, what's going to create the most performance impact, right, on your metrics that matter to you? Oh man, if John was better at analytics, man, we could reduce DSO, we could get paid, we could do all these things, and we can measure that, right? So I think top, still what I hear, interpersonal skills, relationship building skills, and I shouldn't have passion for learning or embracing change at 9. It probably should be 1A. And I'm glad to hear this. A lot of CFOs and other senior finance, treasury, AR executives that I've talked to, when I ask them, what is it on your team that's most important? And without hesitation, the first words that come out is, if I'm giving them an interview, I think they have the technical skills, but I need to be able to assess if they'll fit with our, culture, but also do they have a passion for learning? Can they embrace change? Can they communicate on Zoom without doing weird stuff like this, like I do? And so, just for your, review, you have to be tech savvy. Relevant industries, right? So that's incredibly important. You want to, as an AR professional, you want to be able to add more value, right? What are the relevant industries of your customers? What's driving your customers? Talk to your sales team, read your financial statements, understand that. And then part of what could be changing for your customers could be the regulatory dynamics, right? They may all of a sudden incur costs, right? The freewheeling days of regulation free are over on January 20th, and that might impact your customers. And maybe you can give some insights, right? You go to your credit manager or your direct credit and say, hey, I know all these regulations are coming. We have a lot of customers in this. Do you think that'll impact us? Should we ask our customers? Your director of credit will probably be over the moon if you come into his office and offer that kind of time. And making time is really about I think a big piece of it is leveraging technology and empowering your people so that you don't spend time on non-value add activities, right? You make your folks more productive, you make yourself more productive. And for me, if I reported up to the CFO, how awesome would it be if I could give the CFO part of his day back? And then for your employees, how happy would they be, right? Joy usually spends 2 hours a day on the phone. What if I could do something in 30 minutes a day, right? And, things to Joy, take things late, and then I could work on my own professional development, right? So everybody needs that. You need to commit to it. And then this is something that I put together, how you empower performance. I think I think we look at this, and it's common sense, but it's about the environment that you're in, right? As a boss. So if you're the AR leader or CFO or anybody, this is my advice to you as a manager. And then if you are not a manager, this is what you should aspire to, right? You should expect this of where you work at. So we got to have communication, right? Feedback. We have to give folks opportunities to develop new skills and areas of expertise. We need to offer them that. We have to offer them programs for personal growth, right? Maybe it's wellness, hobbies, whatever that might be. We have to establish accountability. People have to understand their professional value that they bring to the company. How is someone going to really perform, right, in all of it, right? If you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you need to give praise, right, when praise is due. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Of course, we have to have values and ethics, and everyone has to have accountability to the culture. And then we have to have an environment of toxic coworkers. And well, we all have a little tension. I always point this out. Someone who is a little bit abrasive is not toxic. Somebody who is a little bit has a lot of energy, is a little bit disruptive. So what? I mean, you need that. So don't just, and sometimes people don't realize that they're being away. And I say this from personal experience. I've always had a lot of energy and passion, and sometimes people took that the wrong way. And then when someone, came up and said, hey, whoa, you're sending off the wrong vibe here. So I go talk to the person. I'm like, hey, I want to work with you, and I'm sorry if I stepped on your toes or whatever. So perception becomes reality in that work environment. So make sure you have your ear to the grindstone, right, and have that trusted relationships where people aren't afraid to fail and they'll communicate with you honestly, right? So let's talk about what does it look like, right? AR success, the role of technology. And so I just wanted to share with you real quickly. Again, you can have a copy of the slides, what that looks like, what technology can empower, and what it looks like, right? So if you're going to invest in AR automation, these are the things that you should expect. So some stages, we talked about this. You should have fewer manual tasks. You should have hard cost savings. And then I talked about these, greater visibility and oversight. And then the cool thing is, so people don't really talk about this. When we invest in what I don't know how to box fintech, but treasury, AP, AR, whatever you want to call it, BICI, what we really are doing is we're lessening the burden on IT. So I don't think we talk about that at all. So wouldn't it be nice to give IT some of their day back? So, we've all been there. You've had to ask IT for things. Well, they're too busy. They don't want to talk to you. So we can have better relationships with IT. So when we really need something, right, maybe it's an out of the box thing that we need, they're going to be happy. So make your IT team happy. So that's a huge win. You have an improved experience. I mean, we talked about this. Your customers are happier when they're not being badgered all the time. When you eliminate asymmetries of information, we're on the same page, discounts are understood, issues are understood, there's collaboration, right? And then the cool thing is that with the right technology, you empower your staff. You can spend more time on customer-facing issues, and then you give them more agility to become more valuable to the business. So if they want to move up to the CFO position, maybe they want to move into a finance rather than just AR, we can do that, right? Again, for me, it's the big thing is the increased productivity, and a lot of that comes from the lack of visibility issues and stepping back. When we have that right environment, that just really helps our retention of staff as well. And then what the technology does, and I'll say it, I call this not only business agility, I call this productive agility. And so if we have the right technology, right, our folks are able to be productive, whether they're at home, whether they're at work, whether we're in this hybrid environment, right? And then as you have that environment for agility, like AR can respond, right? As we make all these acquisitions that we hopefully we're in the loop about, maybe there's another crisis, maybe there's another global crisis that we have to, go to, we have to change how we operate, but there also might be opportunities, right? We have to be able to support our company growth in terms of opportunities. And so, yikes, how can we support that? We want to grow. Okay, what's the credit profile of our customers? Can we do that? Does it make sense for us to expand in new markets, right? How do we optimize that cash conversion cycle? We need to have the time to do that. And time is what gives us agility, the right tools, right? Scenario analysis, it's amazing to me how many companies still report they can't do scenario analysis. And then let's dig in a little bit to my Dr. Phil side here. I might glide through these a little more quickly than well, I talk fast all the time, but the art and science of collaboration. So we talked about this, and it'd be nice if I don't know what communication is. I think I made that up. Communication leads to collaboration. So we talk about collaborate, blah, blah, blah. You have to communicate first, right? So I like this diagram here, right? This is how you communicate face to face. A lot of times you collaborate with content, right? And that can be written form. And I consider content verbal conversations. And then what that does is all three together, that makes productivity. So true collaboration is what really spurns productivity. And intelligence is information that impacts decisions. So you have to have the right information, right? You have to communicating with the right person in the right way. And so that's some of it. The foundation of communication, what really matters, I talked about this before. A lot of it, again, please ask me for a copy of the slides if you want to really dig in this. Listening, authenticity, and honesty. You want to be proactive, but you also want to make people feel comfortable enough to be proactive with their problems. You want to have your customers feel okay with being proactive, right? We talked about this, align perceptions and reality, right? With not only with your staff, with your customers, right? Having deliberative discussions versus arguing, this is incredibly important. Arguing involves emotions, and that's a very fine line, and that's a skill that has to be developed. And I'm not the key of role playing, even though I did improv last year. That is incredibly important. You have to have difficult decisions with your staff, with your colleagues, and even with your customers. So let's teach people the difference by showing them examples. The art of listening, probably my biggest kryptonite still. I try and do better. You need to work on this. You need to teach people how to listen. One of the best, probably the best seminar I ever went to when I worked at Franklin Electric. I worked there for like 8 years. The VP of Sales, Kurt Evans, gave an hour-long presentation on listening, and I was like, what in the world is this? And then when I was done, I was like, wow, that was the best thing I've ever heard. So, just some tips. Again, it seems like common sense, but not only look at this yourself, share this with your team and talk about it. Bring them food, right? Stop talking. Prepare yourself to listen. And if you're a manager, you have to train your team, right? How do you do these things? How do you put your counter priorities? Or look in the mirror. How do I put my counter priorities? Don't yell at people in public. Don't chastise people. Bring them into your office. Big pet peeve of mine. Remove distractions. You have to be able to empathize with someone. Take your emotion out of it. You have to be patient. I'm sorry I'm talking about Franklin Electric so much, but it had a big impact on my life. So we had a CEO there. He was the best listener. He would listen and just look at you. And he wasn't afraid for the long pause. So he would sit there for 30 seconds, 45 seconds until you filled the silence. So being patient enough not to fill the silence, especially if you're a boss, you toss something out there, you just keep that eye contact going. Most people will fill the silence. So it's an amazing skill. I've seen it in action. I'm still working on it. Listen to the tone. Listen to ideas, not words, not just words, and then your nonverbal communication. So again, seems like common sense, but I think it's important. There's an art listening to an email. I think this just became more critical than ever last year, but it's still more critical than ever. And this is something you need to teach your folks, as well as kind of looking in the mirror. Control your instincts to write a response before you finish reading an email. We've all done it. Does that ever serve a purpose? I had I had a boss way back in the day. What he would do is he would read about 3 lines down and then start cranking off on someone. Then I would say, read the email, right? Don't multitask. If you're reading your Gmails from your buddies, that's fine. Pay attention, right? If an email outlines a problem that may or may not have been caused, do not start with finger pointing and blame, right? Say, okay, how are we going to work with this? Don't finger point, especially in email, and don't have the perception of finger pointing, and be patient. If you're looking for an answer in an email and you don't get it, don't respond with what the hell, what the heck? Ask a question again, or pick up the phone, right, and make a phone call. I think we've all done that, which is great. We might not have picked up the phone, but we said Zoom meeting, but which is fine, which is amazing. So be patient with your team. Do not prejudge the importance of an email based on who the author is. I know it's tough, but you can actually train people, right, in terms of the types of emails you want to receive. I did learn this till I was a consultant. I told folks, I'm like, look, if you're going to send me an email about XYZ, that's fine. If you have a problem, if you have an issue, if you want something, if you're frustrated, you need to call me, or our relationship's not going to work. I don't work like that, right? And then you can tell people, you don't need to copy me on this email. Don't point your finger. So, and then you need to listen to the tone of an email, right? Got to read between the lines a little bit. And here's the thing that I wish I would have known much younger in life. Don't respond to an email in anger. The golden rule: anytime you receive an email that invokes an emotional response, wait at least 30 minutes to respond, and probably longer. And it sounds like overkill. Get a trusted colleague, or maybe it's just your wife or spouse or husband. Read your response to make sure it has the right tone and content. An ill-worded, ill-toned email, not only to your boss, but to your customers, it can do real damage to your career. And you want to look for what was said and not said in those emails. The virtual meetings, we've all done them, but you know, just think about these things a little bit. Have your camera on. See, I have it now. Don't get overly casual on your attire. You don't have to wear a red suit. Pay attention to the background. Mine's okay, it could be better. Zoom's easier to control that. Pay attention to your mute button. You know, am I on mute, right? Have a meeting with purpose, right? It could be social. So there's best practices for having an in-person meeting and a virtual meeting. You have a reputation, right, if you are the leader of the meeting. So be cognizant of that. People will want to come to your meetings. They will learn. You should teach your team, right, how to lead meetings. You know, communicate the purpose and pay attention to your nonverbal gestures. I think this has helped us all a little bit in this virtual world. So the mastery of the soft skills, kind of a summary for me, that's really important. We all talk about, these are the foundation of collaborating with anyone. You have listening, listen to learn, not to respond. You need to know your team, right, the relationships with them. Know what makes these people tick. Know your colleagues, invest in that. But more importantly, let people get to know you. I think a lot of COVID has been bad in so many ways. A good way is people have been more receptive to that. You let someone get to know you. You have to build trust. If someone doesn't know you beyond the straight works, I doubt they're going to trust you. So you have to be willing to open up a little bit. You have to be authentic. If you're an introverted person, don't start wearing red suits and telling jokes and all that. Just be yourself. You need to know your customers, of course. Collaborate with sales. You need to talk to them and earn trust in the AR world. And storytelling is incredibly important. I've written a few blogs on this. You should teach people how to do storytelling. It's pretty cool. There's different types of it, motivations and things like that. You have to be authentic and honest, and you have to fill yourself with your team and your customers that are okay with that. You have to be able to do this in person and virtual. You have to be able to build consensus. You also have to be able to inspire actions. So you should have goals to your communication. I know it's hard, not all the time. Maybe try it for 2 weeks and then figure out what matters, especially if you're in AR. You're sending an email to a customer. Why? You know, what's the purpose? Did they open it? Did they respond? Okay. Did they not? Why not? So communication is important and it matters. Done well, game changer. AR and the customer experience. This is important. These are the ways that we do impact the customer experience. The actions and inactions matter. Each interaction matters. The tone matters. Like we talked about these earlier in the webinar. Visibility into all interactions within and across departments. You have to manage together. You should definitely need to manage disputes in one place. And then supporting AP professionals at customers improves your company's AR efficiency and effectiveness. Let's not forget that. Are there ways that we can help? We're on the phone with AP people. Ask them what they've been doing. Hey, you've been using this, doing that. And a lot of times if you're becoming more electronic, changing information, then that will help them as well, right? Collaborating with customers, again, invest in understanding the AP challenges. You can help them get better. The benefits of electronification of information, right? You might want to educate them on the value of electronic payments, but if you want to do that to get your payment sooner, but you got to get that remittance information, identify early, if that makes side, more processing on means AP processing on our customers, right? It's called the win-win. The art of internal communication within your AR department, visibility into all order to cash processes, visibility in those interactions. We talked about dashboards. Let's collaborate with Treasury. The impact of your AR success, it's going to be higher profits, right? You're going to remove processing and associated errors. You're going to lower your AR costs, right? You're going to improve the productivity. You're going to mitigate bad debt write-off. You're going to have more communication with customers, improving collections. I talked about all the productivity gains. We're going to improve our depth of customer relationships and lower customer churn. We're going to eliminate need for lockbox, sorry, lockbox people. If done right, forecasting of cash, mitigates the use of internal resources. There's your business case right there. A few lessons learned. Communicate more with your employees and your customers. Keep them engaged. Communicate more. Communication is better. Watch, type, and control. Identify ways to keep your customers engaged. Identify more ways to add value, and look at the payment terms and align on the payment timing expectations. So our key takeaways, AR teams need to communicate more and collaborate more, right, with customers. We need to work together, right, internally. Visibility and transparency in every aspect of your process. AR and sales, you need to get along. Technology can empower this impactful collaboration and mitigate that time spent. And technology can empower productive agility, which means success in any business environment. So let me go ahead and launch our final polling question as I make a few closing comments here. Let's see. Oh, all right. Let me go and launch this other question, which I didn't launch last time, which I was talking about. Asking you about your professional development. So let's go ahead and do that to make sure we get that information. Again, I want to reiterate that we are having some real innovations this year at Treasury Webinars. I want to sincerely thank our webinar partner today, Esker, and their strong commitment to thought leadership in serving the Treasury, AP, AR, finance professions. You'll see more from me with Esker this year, and I encourage you to go to their website and look at their great thought leadership resources. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for another 10 seconds or so. I want to really thank each and every one of you whose family or friends have been on the front line of COVID. I sincerely appreciate that. And I would really like everyone to interact more with me. As much as you put into our relationship, I will give you back more. And so always feel free. Contact me at treasurywebinars.com, Ernie at treasurywebinars.com, and stay up to speed on what's going on with the webinars and all my other activities at treasurywebinars.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for your valuable time today. Happy New Year, and make the rest of your day great, everyone. Next time.